a show that covers what's going on in the North Shore and provides insight into our local villages and its representatives. Hi, I'm Elizabeth Johnson, and welcome to another segment of From the Source. Today, I'm happy to have as my special guest an exceptional leader who is changing the face of the town of North Hempstead, making it physically fit and a destination for the arts, culture, and business. Judy Bosworth has been leading the town of North Hempstead since 2014. Her leadership is strong, and she has successfully united the bipartisan representatives of the area to make it a great place to live as well as to retire. I'm grateful to have as my guest today the Town of North Hempstead Supervisor, Judy Bosworth. Welcome, Judy. Thank you for coming on to the show.
So delighted to be here and looking forward to the next half hour or so.
So I know you're very passionate. You have actually quite a few passions, and and I know a lot of that you work into all of the changes that make the town of North Hempstead a great place to live. But specifically, I know that you're passionate about clean water and the aquifers. With the town of North Hempstead practically surrounded by water, what protections are you working on to keep our water clean and safe? Because I know people want to come in and do something about that too.
Great question. And so we deal with it on two levels. We deal with it in terms of the drinking water and also in terms of protecting our aquifers. As you know, Long Island is a sole source aquifer, and what that means is the only way we get our water is from our groundwater, from our aquifers. New York City gets their water, yes, from the aquifer, but also from the reservoirs upstate, and they have other mechanisms of getting water. On Long Island, in Nassau County and Suffolk County, it's the aquifers, and we have to do everything we can to make sure they're protected. So one of the groups that I work with is Water for Long Island, which is a groundwater protection group. And it's an amazing opportunity to work together with representatives from our state government, from our county government, from our local governments, to see what we can do together to make sure that our aquifers are protected. So one of the threats that I see to our aquifers is New York City wanting to reopen the Jamaica wells. And so they would, if that were to happen, if they got permits to reactivate the Jamaica wells, they would be pumping 68 million gallons of water a day from our aquifers. Our 15 service providers pump 42 million gallons a day.
Oh,
so just reopening the Jamaica wells would, I believe, put tremendous stress on our whole aquifer system. So we've written letters expressing our concern about it. I've testified at hearings about it. We actually, well, so this I have to say met with some of our other supervisors who have written letters in opposition to these wells being permitted to open. So it's got to be a real concerted effort on all our parts to make sure that we're using our water in a good way, that we're making sure that we conserve our water, but that we're also trying to protect how much water is being pumped out of the aquifers.
I understand in the city of Long Beach they had a problem with their water supply.
Yeah. Yeah, finding E. coli in the water supply is not a good thing.
No,
Right.
I know. It is a valuable resource, and especially during the summer now, there are definitely, we have to conserve and be conservative with it, you know.
So one of the things we've actually done in North Hempstead, and it's going to be happening really almost as we speak, is we are building retention pools on our site where Harbor Links Golf Course is. And so the purpose of that is to get the water runoff from Harbor Links as well as the water runoff from our capped landfills. And our hope is that by getting that water in retention pools, we'll then use that water for irrigation and not water that's clean water that's being pumped from the aquifers. And we're thinking that we will be able to save 35 to 75 million gallons of water a year by doing that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah. So that's that's an initiative that really will have I believe a great result.
I know it will.
Yeah.
I know it will.
You want to hear more?
I do.
Okay. So we also believe that our residents need to be aware of the need to conserve water. So when we send out our newsletters, and they're done quarterly, but anytime we send something out, we always have a box on the newsletter with a tip for how to conserve water. And the idea is that we want to raise consciousness amongst everybody that we need to be aware. It's the old, if you're brushing your teeth, don't let the water run, and you'd be surprised how many people do. I used to until it was brought to my attention. It's not a good thing. Don't take a shower for too long. Like a 5-minute shower is plenty of time. We do find that in the summer our water usage goes up, and it's not because we're letting the water run while we're brushing our teeth. It's because of irrigation, yards, golf courses, and so we all need to be aware of trying to make sure that we're conscious of trying to preserve our water.
Absolutely. I guess then the rain does help.
Yes, yes it does.
So the beautification of the town of North Hempstead is something that you're very much passionate about, and keeping its natural resources. I know that you've worked on programs, and basically I know the way, or at least I've participated in committees that you have drawn together. You are working on a master plan to develop our shorelines to be more user-friendly without destroying the ecosystem. How do you manage to do that?
So we have North Hempstead Beach Park. A lot of people refer to that as Bar Beach because many years ago, that's what it was called. It was Bar Beach, and there was also a beach that belonged to the county. And so some years back, before I was supervisor, the town did take possession of that county beach. So we have this one very long beach, which is 90 acres of shorefront property, which is wonderful. But we felt that it could be used better than it is currently being used. And because it was a coming together of two separate beaches, right in the middle we have lots of parking lots and lots of spaces that aren't used to their greatest potential. And as soon as I became supervisor, actually one of the things I ran on, I'm not making this political, but that was one of the things that I always felt should be done, is taking a look at North Hempstead Beach Park to see how we can make it so that it really becomes a destination for our residents and for others as well. What we did is we interviewed some companies. We put out an RFP for companies to come up with some suggestions. And we interviewed a number of companies and settled on a company that no one here had ever actually worked with, Quinnell Rothschild. And one of the reasons they were chosen is because as part of their vision for the revisioning of North Hempstead Beach Park was to see how we would work with the shoreline and to see the things that we could do to make the park resilient, to make our shorelines, to be working with the natural tides that we have. So they came up with a basic, like a little bit of a suggestion, and the next step was to meet with the different communities throughout the town. Because although North Hempstead Beach Park is in Port Washington, it is a town facility, and we want to make sure that everybody understands that it's there and that it's a wonderful place to visit and spend the day. So we had meetings at Town Hall. We had a meeting in Port Washington that had like over 200 people that attended. We had a meeting at CGM Pool in New Hyde Park. We had a meeting at the Yes We Can Community Center in Westbury, Newcastle.
Right.
And we publicized it, and we had people come to talk about what they would like to see in a park. We also handed out surveys. We posted, the online address so that people could email suggestions to us. And so by getting as much input from the community, we were able to put that all together and come up with what we thought was a plan that took into account what people wanted. And when we first started the project, I remember the professionals saying, well, the one thing nobody's going to want is a year-round restaurant. And so, of course, the one thing that everybody wanted
food,
was a year-round restaurant. So that is, part of it. Part of it is a seasonal ice skating rink, and they have this in Gramercy Park, where during the winter it's rolled out, but in the summer months it's actually rolled up and put away, and it can be used, for picnic grounds. So it's trying to find very interesting things. Volleyball courts in another, soccer field, trying to find good sitting areas, trying to make the boardwalk very attractive so that people will really want to walk on it. Now it's basically concrete. So we want a boardwalk. We also are eliminating a lot of the concrete parking lots because, number one, they're not good for our environment because water doesn't go down into the ground. It just runs off. So we're finding ways we're putting more green in those areas. And we're also deciding we're not going to fight with Mother Nature. So we have a parking lot actually right as you come into North Hempstead Beach Park near our Hempstead Harbor Trail that floods all the time. And so we needed to address that, like how are we going to figure out what to do so that that doesn't happen? And we're actually letting that return to like a wetland situation. So we're not fighting with the tides and the currents. That will be what it's trying to turn itself into, and we're going to find ways of working around that. And so it's just very important to include resiliency measures and things that will just be important for the green effects in the park, and to make sure that we have a facility that is going to be attractive to everybody. There'll be volleyball courts, there will be playgrounds, there'll be water features, spray pads. So it's just like a lot of exciting things. And no, it's not happening all at once.
Right. It would have to be in stages, I would assume.
Exactly. And so we're ready at this point to actually have a meeting on Monday to talk about, because we now have a plan to see what the first thing that we're going to go out for bid is. Most likely it'll be the parking lots and kind of the easier things to do. And part of it also is we're going down to Washington in 2 weeks to lobby for some grants. And the hope is that we can get some grant funding, for this as well. And the fact that that the process is so well underway is usually in our favor to get a grant, because it's not just this is what we'd like to do, it's this is what we'd like to do, and this is what we've done to move it forward.
Okay, wonderful. So the master plan would take how many years probably to put into effect? Just, nobody can forecast the future, but.
I have no idea.
Okay.
I mean, I wish I could say to you, well, in 3 years it'll be done. I don't know.
Right.
We're going to do it, by sections.
Right.
We're going to be looking to the professionals that we're working with to also help us with what phases, which phases make sense to do first. And as we're doing that, we're also, and this has nothing to do with that master plan, but we have our Hempstead Harbor Trail, which is kind of on the other side of the parking lot. And so we had extended that by a mile, and through grant funding, we now are all set to extend it by another mile. So
wonderful.
If you haven't gone and walked on the Hempstead Harbor Trail, you must go. It's like this piece of land, and it's a trail. I mean, it's a real trail, and you can't believe that you're just like off West Shore Road, because you think you're walking on a hiking trail in Vermont.
It transports you to a totally different location.
It does, and dogs are welcome on it, by the way.
My girlfriend takes her dog there all the time. She loves that trail, and she's loved that it's now expanded and even more. It's amazing how many wonderful resources we have here in the town of North Hempstead. And
isn't it a great town? I mean, it's really fabulous.
I don't want to brag, but it truly is.
Yeah, I have no problem with that.
I was visiting the Museum of Art in Roslyn, and
so it's a county museum. I'd love to take credit for it.
I know. Yes. But it's just, I mean, it is in our backyard, even though it is a county museum. But I mean, our shoreline is really, it's a jewel. And that's why they call us the Gold Coast. So, you know, this will definitely, you know, enhance the beauty. And it sounds like it's very well thought out.
It is, and we're also, you know, looking to dredge water so that we have navigable waters there. You know, we have crew teams. We have Macys, you know, crew team, and we have Chaminade makes use of it. And there's Port Rowing, which is open to everybody, you know, in the town. And, you know, the goal is to one day be able to have a regatta of our own at North, because it's a very beautiful piece of water and apparently good for boating.
Yes.
And so what a great economic engine that would be, to instead of our crew parents having to travel to Delaware and to upstate New York, to have it right here in North Hempstead.
Absolutely. One of the things that actually I have to ask, I know that it's something that I think that you were working on, speaking of waterways, is the juncture between Plando Manor and its deteriorating culvert.
Yes.
And I know that we're at that.
Starting next week.
Is it?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, because I know I've been reading about it for a year, and I saw a barge last year, took pictures of that, and so it's coming.
Starting next week.
Next week, okay.
Now, I didn't know you were going to ask me about that,
I'm
but
sorry.
yes.
But you brought up water, and that just triggered that.
So we were so fortunate because then Senator Jack Martins had secured a grant for the village of Plando Manor and North Hempstead. And so we're working together. Because this is something that needs to be done. We certainly don't want that road collapsing.
Not at all.
Yeah, so this is a very important project, and it is starting next week.
That's wonderful.
Isn't that great?
Yes, it is. It truly is.
It takes a long time for things to happen, but they do actually happen.
Yeah. One of the things that I know that you've worked really hard on is to make the town of North Hempstead recognized as a place to retire. Tell me how you did that, because it's really, that was incredible.
We love our seniors. I'm one of them, but you know, we are so fortunate that we have such an engaged an active senior population in the town of North Hempstead. And I'd love to take credit for all of this, but I can't. This really started, I believe, with a pilot program in New Hyde Park called a NORC, and that stands for Naturally Occurring Retirement Community. So that's an area that's identified as having many retired people. And so there was this pilot program to see, you know, if you provided services, special services to a group who could use them, if it would help them be able to stay in their homes, age gracefully in their own environment. And that was the beginning of Project Independence. And that really started under the former Supervisor, John Kamen. And so that was successful, and it slowly extended to every community in North Hempstead. And it just gets better, and we provide more and more services. It's wonderful. I think one of the things that makes it so successful is that we have a Project Independence Advisory Committee. And so each of the areas have their own advisory committee. So it's not a matter of someone saying, this is what I think you should have. It's the seniors saying, this is what we need. Okay. So it's really an interactive process. We have a wonderful commissioner of Department of Services for the Aging called DOSA. And Kimberly does a really great job with working with everybody. And we have social workers and nurses who also are there to provide services. The idea is people would much rather stay in their homes than need to have help from outside sources, whether it's assisted living or having to move in with children. Our seniors are independent, are engaged. I keep saying engaged because they are. I remember going to one of the senior organizations, and the executive director, and this is not, I'm not kidding you, was 102.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly, and he was really, extraordinary. And it's very important for seniors to realize that we value them, that we appreciate them. They spent their lives building up this town, sending their kids to our school, paying our taxes, volunteering, and now it's our turn to make sure that they're feeling that we appreciate what they're doing. Of course, they're still doing all those things. They're not sending
Right.
kids to school, but they're still volunteering, and they're just, we're just so blessed.
Yes.
And so we are, by the way, one of the 8 best places to retire to in the United States of America, as designated by Money Magazine. So this is, I always love it when there's an outside independent source saying it, because we could say we're just the best,
Right.
but it's nice when it's verified.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Especially by such a well-read magazine.
Yes, and the other thing is, the services are available. People, all they have to do is call 311 and talk about what service they need. You can go online and just go to the Project Independence website. One of the things that I think is so important in Project Independence is that we provide free taxi services to our seniors to go shopping twice a week. Nobody wants to rely upon their children, their friends, their relatives to go shopping, and it makes you feel very independent if you're able to go to a supermarket, pick out the food that you want,
Right.
see it, and the key thing with that as well is that there's a supermarket that's designated in each community, and it's always in a shopping center, so that there's a bank, there's probably a coffee shop, so you can
Right.
take the opportunity to do a number of things while you're at, and then the cab takes you home.
That's excellent.
Isn't that fabulous?
I didn't know that.
Yes.
I might have to take advantage of
Yeah,
it.
and it's not income dependent. You just have to be over 60.
Oh, 60 is the baseline?
Yes.
Wow.
I remember when
Okay.
I got my first Project Independence newsletter. It's called The Pioneer.
Right.
And I looked at it and I said, well, why am I getting this? And then I went, oh, that's why I'm getting it.
My husband will be happy.
Yes. And then there's also taxis at a very reduced cost for any kind of medical appointment or doctor appointment.
So do you have to call 311
Yes.
first and set it up?
We have to be a
through
member
there?
of Project Independence, and,
Okay.
which is very difficult. You call 311 and you say, I want to be a member of Project Independence.
Okay, there you go.
But if you want to reserve a cab, you do have to call the day before.
Okay, okay. Well, that's very useful information. I think that, most people don't realize that 60 is the baseline and that they're eligible, because nowadays not everybody drives, and sometimes it's the right thing not to drive. But
And that's really traumatic when someone has to come to the decision that they can't be driving anymore. And so by maintaining independence, by being able to go shopping, being able to go to a doctor's appointment or to get your blood tests taken without having to bother anybody else,
Right.
that's very important.
now our seniors definitely like their independence.
Yeah.
So
And we also have something called Fun Day Monday,
yes,
which
At
is
the
just
beach.
great. At the beach, and it's going to be starting very soon. It's always the first Monday after the 4th of July, so it's Monday,
Okay.
July 8th.
All right.
And that's actually run by Community Services, who has the same commissioner as the Department of Services, the agency. And so our seniors, we have 1,000 seniors who come down to the beach, have snacks, have entertainment, physical fitness programs. We have a book club. Our seniors have Kindles, and it's a great way of spending a summer day.
Absolutely. Socialization is so important. For
It is.
everybody.
Well, it is.
I'm trying, I
Yeah.
even think it should be for younger children too.
Yeah.
Minus their phones.
Yes, iPads, smart tablets, yes, all of that stuff. But one of the things that is difficult as you age is that sense of isolation. So by being part of Project Independence, by being part of our great senior clubs, it gets people out of the house. They have the opportunity to meet, exchange stories, have a nice meal with with their peers.
Yeah, yeah. One of the things that now has come up is there's been talk about development of Macys. And I know we spoke a little bit about it. Can you just give I'm going to say 2-minute overview
Will you
on
time
this?
me? So, yeah, it's interesting. So we have Macys right off of Northern Boulevard, right at the corner of Manhasset and Great Neck. And they did come to speak to us a few months ago saying that they wanted to develop it. I think they wanted to keep the Macys, but they had plans to do other things.
Right.
And whenever someone comes to me to speak about anything like that, the first thing I'll say is, well, you need to vet it with the community. You need to get out there. You need to see how the community feels about it. You need to go to the Chamber of Commerce. You need to, if it's Manhasset, you need to go to Greater Council, because it's important to get a sense of what the community wants. So this is a property that's called AA zoning, business zoning. So as of right, they have the right to put up a hotel. They have the right to put up stores. They don't have the right to have residential.
Interesting.
Okay, so that would require a change of zone.
Okay.
And they don't have a right to put things up that are not in keeping with our zone. So, if their plan was to put up a 9-story office building, well, that wouldn't be in keeping with our zone, with our zoning. And although they put out some information about what they were planning on doing and that they were ready to go, they've not yet submitted anything to our building department.
Interesting.
Okay, so before something's submitted, there's nothing to discuss. Like someone said to me, well, what do you think of the plan? I said, well, right now there's no plan, because if it's not submitted, it's not a plan. I can tell you that I believe so strongly in maintaining the quality of our life and making sure that whatever we do is something that our residents feel comfortable with. If something, if they have a right to develop something, someone owns property, they have the right to develop it, as long as it doesn't require variances or any special considerations. But from the way they're talking, it sounds like they're thinking of something that's much larger in scope, and that would require a lot of input from our community.
Okay. It's good to know.
Yeah. And so, to me, we have to take into account everybody's needs, but I always believe we're here to serve our residents. Like someone will say to me, like, what's the most important thing you do? And I'll say the most important thing I do is to serve you. And that's really what it is. So I'm looking forward to some interesting discussions.
Right.
And
I'm sure you'll have them.
And I have no doubt that we will, but the community needs to know that we're wanting to make sure that we're working with our residents, with our community, to do what's right.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for being a guest on my show today. That's all the time we have. That's all for today. I hope you will join me for another edition of From the Source. Until then, enjoy.